Welcome to Stories of Essex Limited, brought to you by Made in Essex. I'm Jill Willis, and in this series I've been joined by Doug Bentley, Corporate Finance Partner at Grant Thornton, and Adam Jones, Corporate Partner at Birketts. Together, we've lifted the bonnet on the Essex Limited report and explored the growth stories of the county's top 100 and fast growth 25 alumni. In this episode, we're joined by Sam Malins, CEO of Dunmow Group, the family skip hire firm that, over the past 20 years, Sam's grown into one of the South East's leading full-serviced waste management operations. It's brilliant to sit down again this morning, and today we've got Sam Malins, CEO of Dunmow Group, in to talk about skips and scaling. So can you talk us through from the top some of those vital statistics?
Thanks, Jill, for having me, firstly. I took the business over in 2004. Business was turning over about 900,000, and then sort of slowly grew it through to around about 2009-10, met my business partner, and then we started to really see what we could do with it. We saw an opportunity in Essex in the waste industry, and we then I remember one year we sat down over Christmas and we built a business plan, and I remember we chose the number which we wanted to hit that year, and I think we were nearly doubling the size of the business. And then at the end of that year, we actually did it. I remember we looked at each other and like, oh, maybe we can do what we think we can do. So that was our recipe. Once we'd chosen what we wanted to do from then, we just scaled the business up, making lots of mistakes along the way, but yeah, scaled it up. And now Dunmow we do just over 25 million last year. And we're in a bit of a consolidation stage at the moment with making sure we've got the right revenues and the right type of business. But we went through a very steep growth curve in the last few years.
So you've gone from, I think, 8 members of staff 20 or so years ago to about 170 now. Yep. And there's a massive fleet of vans that I think we're in Chelmsford filming today. So we're in like the heart of Dunmow land, and there's just you see your skips and trucks everywhere. What are the key milestones that have taken you along that journey?
So the key milestones, in 2012, we brought Cartaway. So Cartaway, obviously, they were probably the Essex leading waste business at the time, owned by the Stubbings family. And we were in Little Dunmow, in a small village just on the outskirts of Little Dunmow. And we weren't really very liked because we were growing the business quite significantly over a few years. So we approached the Stubbings in 2012, early 2012, and then we took the business over in June 2012. We went from having no rent to, I think it was about 200,000 a year. So that was a massive difference for us then. And we knew we had to double the size of the business again. I think, from memory, we were about 2.5 million at that point, and we knew to just be able to afford the rent, we had to pretty much double the size of the business. So even over that period of time, we did it again, I think in 2012-13. And that's where I really get my buzz, is not growing by 10%, it's doubling the size and really seeing those challenges. But it gets a lot tougher when you get to this size.
You're making it sound simple by just saying, and next year we'll double again, and then you do it.
And then, in 2020, we took over another yard in Clacton, and then end of 20, we brought Eastern Waste Disposal out of Brightlingsea. And I think, as COVID hit, Dunmow came into COVID, I think we were doing 9 to 10 million turnover, and in that 18 months period, we'd grown to doing, I think, 800,000 or 900,000 a month to just over 2 million a month, so about 25 million turnover. So that was a real steep growth. I realised that, if I wasn't allowed out the county, what I could achieve. But the other businesses had a big depression over that period of time, so we couldn't really export with React on. Firewood was okay because we look after the waste industry. That some of the biggest names in the waste industry around the country, we look after their machinery on site, so that they could still operate, but not to its fullest extent. So we couldn't do much with the fire businesses, so 100% of my time was in the waste business, and we just really grew it, and we brought a lot of the small businesses at the time as well. And
there's a difference between deciding you want to grow the business and doing it, and reacting to a thing like the pandemic, where the phones must have been off the hook, I imagine, just from being a local resident and seeing your skips on the driveway. So how did you deal with that demand?
So we decided we were all in. So it was a tidal wave for our business. We were so we had the two businesses. One we saw the tidal wave coming, and we just decided we were either going to ride it and make the decision. We had Arctic load of skips turning up. I mean, every few days. So we knew the phones were ringing, and the demand had to go to somewhere. And we just decided it was going to be us. And we were buying skip trucks. I mean, I can't remember the exact numbers, but by the end of it, we've got a 50O license limit, and we were up against it. And that's when we had to then stop and then look at the efficiencies in the business rather than just keep growing, which is what needed to happen anyway. But yeah, so we were just having skips delivered, all different sizes, and we were just reacting to the demand.
So can you talk us through that approach to looking for efficiencies and how you drove that within the business? I guess you turned your passion for growth to your passion for efficiency. What did that look like?
Ed, my business partner, he's very, very good at efficiency, and when he looks at a part of the business and laser focuses on it, he can really turn the efficiency dial up. So I think, I'm a little bit conflicted because I really enjoy the growth and the scaling side, and the efficiency, not so much. But when you've got a great team in and a good finance team as well, they can drive those incentives through the business.
And I guess the other side of efficiencies and capitalising on the market opportunity is funding for growth. Yeah. How have you balanced sort of, taking the leap and exploring debt as an option to grow the business?
I don't see debt as a bad thing at all. And I mean, we're quite highly geared as well, because we've and to grow the business, we've taken on a lot of debt. When we've brought, and we've always had one of the youngest fleets of vehicles in the country. We were up till recently, we were running vehicles only up to 3 years. We've pushed it out to 5. So ultimately, when you want to grow, you have to take on the debt, especially in like a service-based business with a not a marginal profit, but without huge profits that you can use for growth. So
yeah, and I guess actually you'd be similar to other businesses within the report as well, where that I guess the county as a broad spectrum has a strong propensity to take on debt. However, there is also a correlation with investing in the balance sheet at the same time, and that has been a key driver of growth across the report more broadly.
You're thinking of some acquisitions potentially?
We've bought a lot of small companies, so one-man band or 1 or 2 trucks over the years, and that's kept our coverage area really strong within Dunmow. But going forward, I think that we're looking at a couple of businesses now to complement the wider business, maybe more into specialist recycling areas to make sure that we get the upside once we've done the segregation. We get the upside, and this year we will invest well over 5 million in Dunmow. So that'll be pretty much another 5 million of debt throughout 2025, just on the Dunmow side alone.
And what comes first for you, would you say? Is it growth or is it the customer experience?
So Ed and I's passion of always, and that's why we've always had such a good relationship, is we just love the customer experience, and I think that's been one of the real early successes of Dunmow, and that's what people know us of, like the slightly different way that Dunmow does it, which is when you phone the team, everyone's very polite, the drivers are very polite, everyone's very polite. We're the type of company that when you walk through the yard or when you walk through the office, people say hello and they don't just put their head down. I think so. For me, it's very much a case of, if we get the customer service right on the front end, then the business aspect looks after itself on the back end. And so we've always been obsessed with customer service, and you can feel it now. It's like I just can't have bad customer service within any of the businesses, and it's harder when you become larger and you become slightly less involved in the day to day. But when I'm involved in the day-to-day, it doesn't matter what happens, the customer always comes first.
In an industry where, staff turnover potentially is fairly high, retention doesn't go on forever. How do you embed that culture when there maybe is quite a high turnover? What does that look like practically within the business?
So I think it is tough, as we know, but it starts at the top, and we're obsessed with customer service. So, I think we get it mostly right from the interview process. I think that's really it, because we make sure that the person coming on board, firstly, is very polite and nice and approachable. So that's the first aspect. And just because they can do the job doesn't mean that they'll come on board with us. I think that's really where we get it right. Because like you said, unfortunately, we do have a higher turnover than staff than, say, the fire businesses. It's a low turnover staff business. But if we get the interview right, we might not always keep the staff for that long, maybe 6 months, a year or two, but it means we've recruited right on the front ends.
And when you've scaled the business through M&A as well, how have you found kind of like bringing together different cultures and different businesses and maintaining that kind of that customer-centric experience that you talk about?
I think that has been a challenge. I think when we're involved in that process, it's about getting the guys, getting the staff that we take on side first of all. Dunmow's got a good name. Businesses that we brought, they're excited that it's Dunmow that have taken it over. I've learnt a lot in the handful that we've done. Yeah, going forward, we would look at a bit more stability in the original team that's there, rather than upheaving some of the things on day one.
I think in the report, what really stands out across the board is that resilience and an entrepreneurial mindset. Is that how you would describe yourself, Dunmow Group?
Yeah, I think myself personally, I'm not money motivated. I'm more time and freedom motivated. So, I've just, at the latter part of my life, what's got me out of bed for the last 25 years, 30 years is the opportunity to have a freer second part of my life. So that's for me personally, and the challenge of it, and the challenge, there's on the entrepreneurial world, there's not a huge amount of us, so it's about. Yeah, I think that the challenge is a big thing. When we're looking at, like you said, about the integrating the businesses, we don't always get it right, and that is a real sad part of it, because we want to, when you go in there, we don't always get it right. But the challenge of trying to get it right and integrating the team as seamlessly as possible is it's all a challenge. So I see the challenges as a real part of that. I really enjoy that.
Do you think you lead Dunmow in a different way to you lead Reacton?
I really enjoy leading from, in my head, I call it leading from the middle. So I like being ingrained in the team and then leading them. And I find it a lot easier in business to do that. So as I've got the multiple businesses, and you tend to you have to come out the middle and lead from the front, I find that, in all honesty, more challenging than leading from the middle, because I like being in the middle of a team and, kind of geeing everyone up and saying, come on, we need to get this done today or tomorrow or this week or this month. Whereas when you're at the top and you're trying to get that done through MDs, directors, management levels, I find that more challenging. So Dunmow, I tend to be a little bit more involved when I am involved. I tend to kind of get in the middle of it and understand it a bit more. Whereas I've got a very, very good structure in the fire team where they get, the reporting lines, and they just get the work done that we need to do. So.
And is that because of the mindset you took when you basically created Reacton from scratch, doing it in a slightly different way to the family business with its legacy of how it was created?
Yeah, I think that Reacton is global. We've got we manufacture everything in Chelmsford. We've got our CNC machine workshop, so everything is manufactured in Chelmsford. Then we've got an office and small manufacturing facility just outside Scottsdale in Arizona, and we assemble there. And then we've got our team of 4 out in Dubai. So we've got 3-4 in America, and then 40 something in the UK on the fire businesses, and then 4 of us out in Dubai. So you have to run it removed. You have to get used to that, and I find it difficult, but it's again, it's a challenge, and especially when I moved over to Dubai, that was another challenge, is running the businesses from that distance.
If you like being in the middle of things, if you like maybe acting on gut reaction, on instinct, on how the business feels rather than necessarily the data, that must be very difficult to take a step back and allow others to step in.
It was extremely difficult, to the point that I think when I moved there, I went through 6 months of kind of excitement, and then I went through probably 6 months to a year of chronic anxiety, went in and through depression, and kind of went through all of that. So it was a really, really tough time, and I like change and I love a challenge, so I moved over there thinking, oh, it's all right, family, everything's fine. And then suddenly I hit a brick wall, like personally. So I can say quite honestly, yes, it was highly anxious, and then it brought me through a really dark period of life. But I've come out the back end of it again wanting the challenge, because that's the part of business, isn't it? If you want to stay in the middle of the business, stay in the middle of the business. If you want to grow a global business, you have to get used to being, get used to leading from the front.
But I think being uncomfortable as well makes you improve as a person, as an individual, a leader, isn't it?
Exactly that. Yeah. I was in a position where I just would have swapped everything to be back with my head in the right. So I feel I've been at the bottom, and I've come out the back end, and now it's stronger. And like you said, I feel a lot stronger now, but still kind of mindful as to some of the challenges.
Everyone from the outside looking in would just see the acquisitions, the growth, the sitting on the fastest growth list, the global expansion, and think all is rosy. You're a swan almost, and it's all happening underneath. For someone a couple of steps behind you on their growth journey, would there be some pearls of wisdom that you'd share?
Yeah, so for me, I don't mind asking questions. I don't mind, I'm quite open about the journey over the last couple of years. And I just had to go and get the best advice. So where I was, whatever stage I was in that journey, I found myself in a point where I had like a life coach and a psychiatrist and you name it, I had it all, because I was absolutely convinced I was coming out the back end of this, and I had to have the right advice through. And I think a lot of people don't ask for that advice. I've always had a business coach, and that's where I met Ed in 2008-9. We had the same business coach, so I've always had advice there. I've always read books, and I think that some people do go it alone. It is really lonely. It can be really lonely when you're trying to do this, because no one really understands what you're trying to do. They don't understand your vision. I still get it now. I still get it even now, after I can see a vision after a year. I can see a vision of a year forward and know it's going to happen, and I still get questioned, even though I've just proven that the last few years the vision has all come, and they still question. So it is quite lonely, and I think that I think it's just about reaching out and speaking to other people in that have been through it, like myself. I'm always contactable on LinkedIn, and like I said, I'm vocal about the story, because I think I'm passionate about getting more people through the back end of it. So,
and Dunmow has been a much longer journey. Are you confident that you've taken the lessons learned from that into your newer business? I know it's not brand new, but your newer business.
Yeah, definitely. I think I had a business coach. I lose track of time now, but I think it was about 5 or 6 years ago. And Dunmow really was getting on top of me at that point in time. And I remember coming into a session, and I was just like, I don't know if I can do this anymore. It was really getting on top. And he just said, look, if you can crack Dunmow, you can crack any business. And I think, and he was right. And I think one of the things around Dunmow, if you think about it, Dunmow has got so many different services to it. So we've got skip hire, rolling off hire, grab hire, waste collection. We've got hazardous waste. We've got a nationwide brokerage. we've got transfer stations, we've got so many different. So having the other businesses, to me, is we've always had multiple businesses and multiple revenue streams in Dunmow. So it's like, there's just skip hire businesses out there, there's just grab hire businesses, and you have to, we've had to run multiple businesses within one. So that's been a real challenge, and it still is, because you can concentrate on one and then another part of the service falls. And so having your eye across the whole portfolio of services.
So would you say that when you started Reacton, you've approached the beginnings of that business in a very different way?
Beginning of the fire businesses started with Firewood. Firewood was born from me and a friend and him telling me an idea, and then eventually I got Ed together and we kind of formed a business, and that was in 2010. And then we found a manufacturer that we were working with up to about 2014-15, and they just weren't adaptive enough to what we wanted to do. We wanted to take a product and we wanted to integrate it into the heavy plant industry, which is a really tough industry, and they just wouldn't keep up with our demands. So we then decided to buy a business, which was a company called Firetech Reacton, small manufacturing business up in Scotland. And that we bought that in 2016, and the technology that we use, which is a pneumatic technology, so the fire suppression systems don't require any power to operate. It's just the agent in the cylinder and in a pneumatic system that is like charged with nitrogen, and it detects the fire and puts the fire out automatically. That particular technology wasn't being looked at particularly well by the rest of the industry, because the other companies that did it didn't do it professionally enough. But it's a fantastic technology. So we thought, we're going to take this technology and we're going to put it on the stage globally, and that was the challenge then. And now we compete with all the companies that we looked up to in 2010. We took the global leader completely out the UK. So we knew we could then do that throughout other industries, other countries. So the UK was easier because we're here, but we've done it in certain other countries. And now in the UAE, we're the market leader for bus fire suppression. And then we've got other pockets around the world that we're becoming market leaders in. So for me, we started the fire businesses to become... Well, Firewood was to solve a challenge, solve a problem, and then Reacton was, we just saw the vision to the Reacton's vision, and Reacton's goal is to integrate very commercially affordable systems to the industry globally, and that's what we've done. That's what we're doing at the moment.
Taking out kind of an industry-leading player as the new kid on the block, though, is a serious challenge.
Yeah.
And some people would argue, is that sort of foolhardy to go and take on a national player? How did you go about that?
We knew we had a fantastic technology, and we knew we could go in at a price point where we could make money, but the customer could benefit from that price point. And ultimately, that's really our model globally. We've cost engineered our systems now to make sure that we've got a good margin, but it's extremely competitive in the market, and that's really where we sit. We've created an amazing platform where actually all of our systems so we have got a vehicle system that protects mining equipment. We protect buses, we protect CNC machines, electrical control panels. We protect like the Ain wheel in Dubai, so we can do bespoke protection. But we use a common valve across the whole series of systems. So when we get the valve approved, it then takes us a lot less time to get it approved across the rest of the industries. So we've got a formula within the business that really it's highly scalable, allows us to scale well. But also every time we go through a new approval, the valve gets stronger and stronger in its value and its IP, and we just know the reliability. We've been producing that particular valve now for 5 years, and it's in tens of thousands of assets around the world, and it's extremely reliable.
And what's personally motivating you now that you are kind of 20 or so years in to leading a growing business empire?
Besides having 2 businesses on the Essex fast growth list.
I think over the next few years, I'd like to become less involved in the day-to-day. Giving back is what I now feel passionately about. I talk about my story over the last couple of years, which is going through burnout, depression, stop drinking, and I do that to get some awareness out. So if someone's feeling the same, it's kind of okay. Other people are going through it.
This year, am I right in thinking that it was 56 million turnover to get onto the top 100 list? I think Dunmow Group is currently somewhere around, is it 23 million?
Around that, I think.
Around there.
Yeah.
So are you eyeing up the list this year, or should we pencil you in for next year?
I think you'll have to pencil us in for next year, unfortunately. Yeah.
Sam, thank you so much for joining us today. I personally have found it really interesting to hear your kind of leadership journey, and actually that you found it doesn't have to happen in a certain way. You can find your own way to lead from the middle, and that's kind of all right. Thanks very much.
Thanks very much. Thank you.